Hello and welcome to India Career Center, the one-stop podcast for students, professionals, parents and guardians. In every episode, we will try to deal with a current topic that needs expert advice related to career guidance and career mentoring. Please welcome your host, Dr. S.P. Mishra to the show. And happy listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on India Career Center. Today I'm delighted to welcome my good old friend Kiran. We studied together in School of Management way back in 99 to 2001 in Pondicherry. Kiran, throughout his career, has been primarily into market research and related field. And in one of our conversations, I came to learn about this interesting topic, which is called synthetic data. And Kiran and the organization in which he's working, Kantar, they are doing some cutting edge new things in this world of synthetic data. So I thought, why not actually bring him to a conversation and share this to a wider audience? Kiran, thank you so much. We have been discussing this for a while, and good that you made some time for this conversation today.
Thank you for having me, Siba. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so to start our conversation, let's first unpack what exactly you mean by synthetic data, because for a novice, probably synthetic data could be meaning anything. So can you unpack this for us?
Okay, so in the world of market research and marketing in general, you collect data by talking to people. We call that human data. You collect data by talking to people about what they do, what they think. So that is often called human data, survey data. So think about synthetic data as artificial data that you have synthesized using this human data that mimics the properties of this human data. It's not real data, but it mimics the properties. So perhaps a good analogy is, so if you think of movies, the hero has a stunt double. So the stunt double looks like the hero, moves like the hero, does many things on behalf of the hero, but it's not the hero. So the stunt double acts as a good complement to the main hero. So think of synthetic data like that, mimics the properties of real data. But it is generated using algorithms. It could be AI models, it could be predictive machine learning models, or it could be other generative data science techniques, algorithms.
And what was the need for this? I mean, how it all started? In core market research, you deal directly with people or organization and so on and so forth. So why there was this need for creating this synthetic data?
So there has always been a need for synthesizing some data. So it's an age-old problem in the world of market research and analytics. In the world of analytics, it is called the imputation problem. So you essentially think of gaps in data sets when you bring together different data sources, or think of some information that has been left out when you're completing surveys, or there are some parts where you know that you cannot spend that much time with the respondent, with talking to people for long. So you are conscious about what information you will collect and what information you can perhaps predict subsequently. So the imputation problem is an age-old problem, and there have been a lot of econometric modeling techniques, statistical ways in which we have tried to address that. So it is not a new problem. What is fascinating is the kind of technologies that have been emerging in the recent times have allowed us to get around to several new use cases and to use this in more ways to address some of the challenges and the trends that we are seeing within the market research and the consumer insights industry. So let me elaborate on that a little bit. So our clients always are under pressure to get information faster with the limited budget, which means cheaper, but they're always hungry for more insights. So it's the paradox of data. There's always there's exponential availability of data, but they're hungry for more insights and particularly for valuable advice on those insights. So that's the trend that's happening within the industry side. on the AI data science side, there is the emergence of all of these technologies that are generative techniques, so to say, particularly with Gen AI and ChatGPT over the past few years. So if you were to think of the intersection of this, how can we use these to address the challenges and some of the questions that our clients are facing? And that's where we started thinking about, okay, so can we think beyond the imputation problem? So then there are several use cases that we are thinking about. For example, there's something called a boosting problem. There's something called as an augmentation problem. An AI avatar is another use case. So there are many ways in which we could use it.
And just to understand, since you have been throughout your career into market research, when you have started observing this as a transition of use of synthetic data, and what have been the breakthrough ideas which you have seen from your earlier days to now, how the breakthroughs are shaping up now?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, Sibam, uh, there is actually nothing breakthrough around the problem of synthetic data itself. It's been around for a long period of time, like within the world of analytics, maybe for the past couple of decades, if not more, and particularly in the last decade or so, which has actually been the golden era for analytics, and with the explosion of data computing infrastructure and emergence of newer data science techniques. It's actually the last decade and a half has been fascinating in the world of analytics and data science. So it's not a new problem at all, but to take those to newer use cases has been the breakthrough. To identify newer ways of generating synthetic data has been the breakthrough. So maybe I'll step back a little bit to talk about how people were thinking about it just in the beginning of 2022-23, when ChatGPT took everyone's imagination by storm. So what happened was there were people who were thinking, can AI now replace surveys? There was a group of people and group of clients and many clients. It was a common question. It's perfectly okay to ask the question. Can we now actually ask ChatGPT for response instead of asking people, and it will confidently give back an answer? So instead of conducting costly research, market research, and talking to several hundreds of people or thousands of people to collect real information, can't we just ask ChatGPT? Can't we just ask an LLM for a response? Now, we did several experiments with that. And then we figured out that you really can't ask. You really can't ask, because it is, much as it will give you a very confident answer, it is not the right answer. Like, for example, we figured out that it has, I'm talking about results of some rigorous experiments that we have done. We figured out that it has a positivity bias. So as compared to human responses. So if I had responses of some 5,000 individuals on how they think about some auto manufacturers and environment and health and all of that. So we compared the responses, and then we saw, hey, this has a positivity bias. And the second is it has a problem of missing nuance. It would tend to stereotype responses and regress to the mean. Definitely LLMs were not there yet in terms of just answering responses or giving answers to surveys.
I think they also call it as a hallucination problem of AI.
Hallucination problem is making things up. Here it is, you're asking it to, so in generative AI is what? It's generating something. So it is making something up, but we want it to make something up that is as close to the real world as possible. So that's that's what we want to harness this technology for. We don't want to want it to make things up that doesn't exist. So we want to use the generative part of the technology, but we want it to be grounded on something real. So we figured out that as much as we can't just ask LLMs for responses, but we can use many of the generative techniques that are emerging, along with some strong data science models and building on the history of building sophisticated algorithms. We can find ways in which we can generate data, and it can be, so think of we can generate it at aggregated levels, or we can generate it at individual levels. And what do I mean by aggregated levels or individual levels? So think of if you have a survey of 1,000 people, can I add 500 more rows to it? So imagine an Excel sheet with 1,000 rows, and where each row is a respondent, and the columns are some information that you have collected. Along with the 1,000 rows, can I add another 500 rows to it? So that is um, so that's what is called as a responder level boosting problem. There is another use case where I collect only some part of information from a respondent. Let's say I would ideally like to spend 20 minutes in a conversation with a respondent, but I have only 10 minutes. So I prioritize the key questions to ask with that respondent, and I find ways of predicting the other pieces of information um, based on the information that I've got. So that is like an augmentation problem. So I'm talking about the boosting problem. I'm talking about an augmentation problem. So maybe an analogy for the augmentation problem could be like a jigsaw puzzle. So if you have, let us say, some parts of the jigsaw puzzle, you can make a fair estimate of how would the missing pieces of the jigsaw puzzle look like, and create those pieces and fill those parts in. So those could actually be thought of like an augmentation problem. So that's a long answer to your question around what is the breakthrough part of it. The breakthrough part of it is actually coming from newer use cases that we are exploring than the problem of synthetic data by itself.
Fantastic. So what makes Kantar's approach to synthetic data unique compared to what others are doing in the field? I mean, I'm sure there are others also in this field. So what exactly is the Kantar's USP, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm not sure I would get into all of the USPs here, but I'll maybe make some high-level comments. The most important part of generating synthetic data is to have a strong foundation of real data. So, and we will talk about it perhaps subsequently about what the kind of hype that exists within the market. So you cannot generate synthetic data without having a strong data quality foundation. So you need to have strong, good quality real data for you to generate synthetic data of any kind. I talked about a few use cases of boosting, of augmentation, of imputation, etc. For any of these use cases, um, you need high quality human data. And I think at Kantar, we take this part seriously. We have been around the business for decades now. We are, if not the world's largest, we are one of the world's largest consumer insights and data and analytics firms, which takes the quality of its data seriously of what we supply to our clients. And that is one of the biggest differentiating aspects compared to to many of the technology firms which are actually playing around with the technology of how can we generate synthetic data. The second aspect is we think of it as, or rather we do not think of it as a one size fits all approach. We think of it as a use case by use case problem. So you need a different set of mechanisms of thinking about into the context of measuring performance of brands versus how do you measure consumers' reaction to innovation, or if you want to understand more about a particular consumer segment. Each of these have to be addressed as different use cases. So you cannot have a one size fits all, one algorithm that will meet all of these different client needs. A third differentiation perhaps is the kind of rigorous validations that we do. You need to ensure that your synthetic data behaves as closely as possible to the real data. So what do we mean by that? We mean that, so let's say, take the boosting problem that we talked about. If you had 1,000 responses and you generated another 500 or 1,000 lines of respondents, so which is fake data, synthetic data. But this has to mimic the statistical properties of the real data of the 1,000 people that you have met already. So which means we do a lot of rigorous checks around the statistical properties of this, and how, when we augment this along with the human data, how does it behave? And is it fine for us to put the two together? It has to replicate the patterns that we see within the human data, which means that not only does it have to mimic the statistical properties, but it should also how the different variables relate to each other within your data set. we have to ensure that all of those are also equally mimicked. You need to also ensure that some of the patterns that you see in the data that is representative of the real world is mimicked in your synthetic data. So there are multiple ways in which we do this tests. And there are different data science techniques of doing it. You have a holdout data set, which is called as the ground truth. And then once you generate and create your synthetic data, you compare that with this, and you do this iteratively multiple times, hundreds of times, thousands of times, and then you see if are you able to get this, mimic this well, and it is ticking all the boxes, and then you're satisfied that, so this is as good, and we can then give this to clients, right? So these are some of the ways in which we find ourselves to be differentiating, because we have actually done quite a few tests on some of the players that are out there. Be that the kind of algorithms my team have been building actually come on top of the heap as compared to some of the players out there.
Okay, I've got two questions to follow with this. Let's say there's a customer who approaches a Kantar, and primary objective of a customer coming to you or Kantar is to basically create customer insight for their product or service. And that product and service could be an existing product or a new product or service. And ultimately that should bring economic value to the customer. So for a customer, the cycle is actually quite long. I mean, if they approach Kantar, they do a research, bring the product, and the economic value probably comes in 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. Could be different for different products and services. So the proof of pudding, so to speak, for Kantar is the customer actually getting that value after going through the cycle of your analytics and research? And when do they do that? And when you're taking up a new project, I mean, Kantar is taking up a new project. So does the customer know or the client know that, okay, there are X number of real data which is available, and there'll be Y number of new generative synthetic data which we'll be using, and that is how you will be getting the result. So is it the way you're going to approach, or you approach the client?
Absolutely. The client, there has to be 100% transparency of what you're doing. Remember, we are actually doing all of this to what end? Because the client doesn't have time, or it is really difficult to get to certain kinds of respondents. So imagine a client who wants to talk to young luxury car buyers in the metros of the country. Or imagine a healthcare provider who wants to talk to people who are having certain kinds of illness. So such people are hard to find for market research firms, and it is that much more costlier for a client to invest in going after finding such people and collecting information. Now, this is a very good use case where you are able to, I will collect some information, but I will also boost and augment this real data with synthetic data, so that you can make your decisions with confidence. So you can make your decisions because imagine I have met only maybe 25 people or 30 people of luxury car buyers in top metros or high net worth individuals. So now that is subject to a lot of sampling error. But if I can tell that, hey, I have collected 30 people of real human responses, but then I can boost the statistical property of this 30 people to be around 150 people or 200 people. You will have the same level of confidence of making inferences from the data as if this 30 people were mimicking the properties of a sample size of 200. Then the client is that much more reassured. So we have to begin with 100% transparency. Of course, that is but a given. But along with that, you also need to have automated processes for you to deliver this at scale, at quality to the client. Because the client is not interested in all of the math that I talked about under the hood, about how we create holdout sets and how we validate and how it is mimicking statistical properties. All they're interested in, hey, can you give this to me sooner? And can you give this to me at a faster rate? And can I make better decisions on the back of this data? So there is a lot of investment that one has to do in creating these models and algorithms. But in addition, that alone is not sufficient. You need to ensure that you have the right technology infrastructure from end to end, from the time you are collecting some human data all the way to what you're delivering to the client, and how this algorithms stays in the mix. What are the quality control processes that you have? Are you having human eyes and oversight on top of this to ensure that nothing is breaking and all of this makes sense? And all of this has to happen speedily. So you need to have the necessary end-to-end technology infrastructure. And of course, overriding all of this, transparency is key. So that this is how we are approaching it. You will get 80% human data, 20% synthetic data, and that's how we are going to do it, or 50-50, or whatever be it. That is still some time away. This is all still cutting edge, very emerging area, very nascent yet, but we are getting there.
Okay, so do you also find some customer who, let's say, approaching you for the first time and doesn't know anything about synthetic data, and he says, no, I would want you to do the 100% research on the field. So do you still get a client like that?
Yes, of course. So one of our biggest learnings over the past few years has been the level of education that we need to do with to all our stakeholders, be it our client servicing teams or our clients. And you get clients of both kinds. So at one end, clients who are very skeptical and conservative, and I need proofs, I need this, and I don't believe in all of this. I need 100% human responses for me to go ahead with this. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have clients who are telling, I want to just do away with surveys, man. I just want you to just do this and get me data faster. I don't want to launch new surveys in areas where I don't do anymore. I want you to just find ways of just giving me that information. So for both ends of the spectrum, there is a certain level of education that we need to do, and we need to do that very sensitively, and we need to do that in different ways. So at one end of the spectrum, you need to show proof points. So you need to show that, hey, what you're asking for is, of course, we will do 100%, and that's been our history. We have 5 to 7 decades long history of collecting and delivering high quality human data. So, and we will do that, and insights on the back of that. But here is this emerging technology, and here is the proof points. Here is how you would, so this is the distribution of the responses of human data. This is the distribution of human plus synthetic data. It's not, it's all great. So, and these are some of the narrow use cases that we are exploring. Our own worldview is one of being cautiously progressing on these lines. We are not, we are not doing it just because it's cool. We are approaching this entire area cautiously and pursuing it very rigorously. So we need to show the rigor and the validations to one end of the spectrum. To the other end of the spectrum, we have to tell this is not utopia. It's not like you ask this and a kitchen sink approach won't work. You have to take it use case by use case. You need real data, and you can only synthetic data will never replace human data. It can only augment what real data is already doing. So real data is a non-negotiable, real human data, and along with that, you will need synthetic data that can help you to overcome some of your challenges, but you can't have a kitchen sink approach.
Okay, so now briefly tell us about Kantar, because we have not spoken about the organization itself. So can you briefly tell about the how it started and briefly its operation in India and worldwide?
Kantar is one of the world's largest market research, data, and analytics companies. Its origins go back to several decades back, and it has evolved in the world of market research and consumer insights, helping some of the top companies and brands in the world to build better brands and businesses. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. It has over 20,000 people, 25,000 people perhaps across the world. And it caters to clients' needs across all of their decision-making requirements, be it from how to think about markets and consumers, how to build a brand proposition, which includes inputs into brand positioning and pricing and innovation and then distribution and such, or how to measure brand performance, how to measure customer experience, and the entire spectrum of decision-making needs Kantar caters to in its own unique ways.
Okay, and about your own unit, I mean, this is something relatively new, right? I mean, tell us about the synthetic data team. I mean, rather the data science team, right?
Yes. So I head what is called as the data science and innovation team, Sibam, and it's a niche and elite unit of data scientists. It's a totally technical team that sits across different parts of the world within Kantar. Some part of the team sits in India, some other parts of Europe and parts of Americas. And our job is primarily to stay ahead of the trend in the world of data science and AI, and to keep looking out for the latest and the emerging technologies and find ways of bringing those technologies to solve for Kantar's clients' problems. So that might mean creating new AI products and solutions, or engaging with clients on AI projects and pilots. It could be consulting assignments, but different ways in which we bring these technologies and harness those technologies to meet our clients' needs. And that's primarily what my team does.
Okay. So, what are some of the exciting or impactful use cases that you have seen so far using synthetic data at Kantar?
Perhaps two or three use cases I could talk about. And I'm talking about things that are really emerging out there and it's not yet mainstream. I talked about the imputation problem, which is the fill in the blanks problem, as I called it. So that has actually been around for a while now. But the boosting problem itself is fascinating, where we talked about you have few thousand responses of human data. How can you augment that with more rows, adding more rows to this one? And that actually can help navigate a lot of real challenges clients have in terms of reaching out to hard to reach audiences, cutting down on the cost of reaching out to hard to reach audiences, um, um, delivering greater statistical precision to decisions being made on this. So, and all of these is primarily in the area of what we call as measuring brand performance. So clients invest a lot of their time, effort, money in measuring how their brands perform. So they engage Kantar to talk to their potential customers or existing customers to understand how they think and feel and interact with their brands. So, and we collect information every week, every month, every quarter, year on year. So, and that's essentially called brand performance measurement or brand performance tracking. So within this space, there is we have been able to make a lot of strides on how we are able to use this particular technology to create offers that clients can buy into and that can augment for this. So you will see in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, there will be launches from Kantar in this space. Another use case is in the area of augmentation that I talked about. Let's say gone are the days when clients have the time or the patience, or respondents had the time or patience to answer 20-minute questionnaires or 30-minute questionnaires, and both clients and us are notorious for writing really long and boring questionnaires. So we have been trying to find ways in which we can really shorten the research instrument, as we call it, the questionnaire, to just a few questions that are really needed for us to identify, let's say, consumer segments. One of the areas that's big within market research is segmentation studies. So consumer segmentation and customer segmentation studies. So how do we really keep it to the bare minimum possible, and can we find ways of filling in and augmenting the rest of the information areas from a respondent? Can we just ask open-ended questions? Imagine you and I having a normal conversation like this with a respondent instead of a Likert scale and ratings questions. But then I'm able to synthesize all of this to very quantitatively robust segmentation exercises. So that's another fascinating use case. Another emerging area and a third use case in this, Siba, is around creating AI avatars or personas, or AI personas of these segments that I talked about. Imagine if a client had on their desks, after I delivered a segmentation study, they had some kind of an interface which told, here is your adventurous explorer, and we give these kind of segments to clients to help them sharpen their brand positionings. So here is your value conscious consumer, or here is your sophisticated buyer, and they can ask questions to it. They can say, how would you buy? What does your house look like, and how does your purchase journey look like, and such. So creating AI avatars of this is another space that is emerging, and we are doing a lot of research in that space as well. So lots of fascinating use cases.
Fantastic. I was just thinking when you were answering this, since you have 5 decades or more of longevity of this entity called Kantar, so during this 5 decades, I think so much of research, market research, original data which is already there as gold mine for all of you, and you are now using this synthetic data technique to augment and address some of the problems. But essentially, when you talk about market research, basically you're trying to assess the human behavior, right? So do you see, I mean, in every decade, the response to a particular stimuli is actually changing? Is there any study to show that probably 10 years or 20 years back, a certain stimuli would have given a different response, human response to what it is today, primarily because we are equipped today with so much of technology, or maybe sometimes it is so much of noise around us. So is there any study to show that the human behavior itself is actually transitioning every decade? Does this really ring a bell when I ask this?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question. When you mean changes in human behavior, are you talking about predicting emerging trends in consumer behavior?
That's right.
Let's say uh, 15 years ago, could you have predicted that the health trend would actually be as big as it is today?
That's right.
Lose analogy. Is that your question, Siba?
That's right. Yes.
Right. So I'll get to the question, but since you talked briefly about the long history of Kantar and we sit on rich data, I just want to also clarify that a lot of that is actually custom work that we do for clients. So what we do for one client can't be used for another client. So it's not like we sit on enormous pile of data. If at all we have to sit on a pile of data, it is through compliance and consent and to agree with the clients that we can use this for training purposes and such. So I just, since this is going to be publicly available, I just want to clarify that. To your question around identifying emerging trends, that's really the golden question out there for clients, right? So if they could answer those questions easily, so they would pay an arm and a leg for, for getting that. Every marketer would get that. There are different ways we go about it in terms of trying to understand emerging trends. Harnessing non-survey led data sources is a huge part of that. For example, search and social data is a huge part of it. Behavioral data can actually lead to analysis of that, can lead to understanding emerging trends. Identifying people who are at the forefront of different categories and understanding how a category is likely to emerge is another way of going about it. We don't always get it right, but we have enough ways in which we try to understand, is this just a fad or is this going to be a sustained trend? And we try to advise our clients on that. Most times we get it right. And clients also, they also try to understand because they see a plethora of emerging trends depending upon the category that they are into. And it is hard for them to discern which one should I be investing behind. And where should my next innovation be? What should be my next big bet? And those are hard decisions for them. And we try to advise them on these emerging trends through different ways of going about our business. So going back to the subject of this podcast, can synthetic data be used for that? Not yet. You still need to talk to real humans and you still need to get real data. But can we synthetic data be used for building our confidence on some of the decisions that we are making? Perhaps. Yes.
Okay, now since you touched upon the use cases, so let's try and understand which industries do you think stand to benefit the most from synthetic data in the coming years? That's one. And the second part is how do you see the future of market research and analytics? using this technology?
So, beyond the world of marketing and market research, there are lots of areas where synthetic data can actually be really useful. Like, for example, think of health sector. I forget the name of this company now that actually created lots of artificial data of patient level information and made it publicly available for training machine learning models um, to help diagnose certain kinds of diseases or illnesses at an earlier stage than what human doctors could do. So this is a fantastic use case of how this can be used for public good. Or imagine in the world of automotives and self-driving vehicles, you can create several kinds of scenarios, real scenarios based on existing routes, and you can create very many new routes for you to train your self-driving vehicles on. So there are many use cases like that. Banks and financial institutions have another ways in which you're able to detect fraud and such cases using this. So you need lots of data, and where you have sparsity of data, you can use synthetic data to augment it and to build newer data sets so that you're able to train your models and algorithms with more confidence for certain kinds of detection or for certain kinds of enhanced prediction problems. So many use cases like that. Within the world of marketing and market research itself, we talked about some of the use cases, so I won't repeat those. But in terms of where, in general, the world of marketing, market research, analytics is headed, is that we will be increasingly under pressure to collect real human responses. So when I mean under pressure, cost of reaching out to real human and having and being able to collect all the information that we will be able to collect will actually be, people will be increasingly inaccessible. It'll be even more costlier to reach out to people. It'll be harder uh, to uh, to uh, to get that kind of real human data at the scale and the quantity and volume that we want. So the world of insights is moving towards gathering less and less information and using the advancements of technology to augment and fill up the parts that we don't know yet. But yet we are delivering higher quality of insights. So that's where we are getting to. It might not be in the short term, but in the medium to long term, we will see synthetic responses, AI generated responses growing on our ability to trust them and to rely on them to be able to augment human data and for these to coexist and for us to rely on them even more and more to help our clients make better decisions.
Okay, so during our earlier conversation, you explained about digital twins. So can you explain about how this and other emerging technologies are coming up in the synthetic data area?
Yeah, so digital twins is another use case. You remember I talked about an AI avatar or a persona. So think of a digital twin as a virtual customer or a virtual respondent. So if I had information about lots of people and millions of people and how they have answered questions in the past. So let's say Kantar runs this massive panel of people from whom we collect information. So it runs into several billions of people, and we know how how they have responded to several kinds of surveys in the past. We know we have enough information about them, which we have got through their consent. Can we create a digital avatar of these people, like a virtual customer, to whom you can ask questions, and it is likely to generate responses having understood patterns from the past responses of past real responses, can generate responses that we can rely upon, that it is indeed likely to, even if we went and did a real survey, can we actually get this is the kind of responses that we would have got. Lots of R&D to be done yet. It's a very hard technical problem because think of it like this: you're training an art student to see lots of paintings of one kind for for that art student to understand the patterns and the styles of those paintings and then eventually give a painting of their own. So that's a crude analogy to help understand this problem. So it's a harder problem. But can we get there? Is it around the corner? Perhaps. We still have to think about what are the different ways of evaluating such responses. Can we trust the responses, particularly in the cases of where you're using it for understanding breakthrough ideas and innovation? What kind of response is it likely? Because that information has never been made available to this algorithm, right? So how can it respond to that? So these are some of the use cases. But in a nutshell, think of digital twins as a virtual customer, as a virtual respondent.
Okay, now since our conversation is targeted for youngsters, those especially in the school and college, and who might actually look at this market research, marketing and analytics, data analytics as a future career. So would you like to give a sense of what is the kind of educational path which normally your people within Kantar, not just the data science unit, but also overall as Kantar, what kind of qualifications normally people have, and that could also give a sense of what is the career paths which youngsters can follow to pursue possibly a role in Kantar or otherwise in the overall industry.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Siba. The I'll try to disambiguate the profile that is needed within the world of consumer insights itself, and my team, which is a very technical team, data science team. So the world of consumer insights needs some foundations of marketing, which is important to understand, because we of course advise our clients on how to build better brands and businesses. So you need to have some foundations of marketing. And if you are pursuing quantitative research, which is dealing with numerical data and numbers, you need to have a strong mathematical background, some quantitative background, be it in engineering or be it maths or statistics as background. Those will help in building a career in the world of market research and consumer insights. There is also a specialized field called qualitative research, which is dealing with people. So having qualifications in the area of psychology, having qualifications in the area of anthropology and social sciences, along with foundations of marketing, can actually lead to being a highly qualified professional in the area of qualitative research.
And
My
just
team,
stay there. If you can just differentiate between these two, the qualitative and the quantitative side of it.
yeah. So on quantitative side, all of our conversations so far has actually been around the quantitative side. So
Right.
we have been talking about talking to different people, measuring their responses, and doing a numerical analysis of those responses. So imagine I'm meeting 1,000 people, and I have to analyze the patterns of their response. So I will have to do some statistical summarization of those 1,000 people to give summary insights to my clients, that out of these 1,000 people, this is what they think about your brand. This percentage are aware of your brand. Y percentage of them think, are considering your brand. Z percentage of them have bought your brand in the last 1 month. This is what they think about your brand. This is what they think positively. This is what they think negatively. And all of this is numerical analysis of this data. So you need some quantitative background. Whereas at the same time, you could actually have unstructured data. So for example, a client wants to understand how consumers are likely to react to their latest ad, or how consumers are likely to think about, let's say some 3 new innovative ideas that they have come up with. And you need some deeper insights of how to sharpen those and take it to the market. I don't need to talk to several hundreds of people, but I need to talk to a few people, but have deeper conversations with them. So I conduct what is called as a focus group discussion. I conduct what is called a depth interview. So where I spend significant amount of time with the respondent, with a potential consumer, like it could be an hour and a half, sometimes even longer, to just talk about it and have natural, authentic conversations about a particular topic. And then I go back and analyze that to try to glean insights of this is how they're reacting and this is what they're. doing. So that is qualitative research. So it's where there's no quantitative data. You have what do you have at the end of it as data? You have transcripts of the conversations that you have had as part of those group discussions or depth interviews. So you go back to analyze those transcripts. You go back to how those conversations went, and then you summarize that for your client. So that's qualitative research for you. Does that bring it alive?
Yeah, makes sense. Yes, makes sense. Yeah.
So going back to your earlier question about the profile of people within my team, they're largely technical people, and they come with some deep specializations in the space of statistics, statistical modeling, deep learning, computer science, or optimization, computer vision. So these are some of the areas of data science. So generally, they have some deep technical specialization in the world of data science. The area is so vast that you can't have somebody who knows it all. So I would actually abstract out to, if your listeners are interested in building a career in the space of data science, technical grounding or a foundation is a must for a long-term career success. There's enough material around, enough buzz around that, you don't need to know coding, you don't need to know math, but you can still build a career in data science. It will take you thus far, but invest in having a good foundation. And that could be a math-led foundation or a technical engineering-led foundation. So because the world of data science, if I may think of it, it has three pillars to it. So there's a math algorithm pillar to it. There's a technology, engineering, user interface, cloud, deployment related angle to it, which is all a technology angle. And the third is a business. For someone getting into the world of data science, it is important to have a grounding in one of these three areas and to have your own hip pocket skills that are irreplaceable in one of these three pillars to build a long-term career in the world of data science and AI.
Fantastic. So, Kiran, I think we have covered most of the points we thought we wanted to cover. And if you have any final thoughts for our viewers and listeners, you can. Otherwise, it's fantastic to, in a structured way, capture all the information in a conversation like this. And thank you for doing it. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It is a fascinating area to talk about and to be in. I find myself to be in a very privileged position in my current role. I have a ringside view of all the emerging areas in the world of AI and data science, and being surrounded by a very talented team. So that's so I'm happy to come to this forum and share what I know with you and with your listeners, Sipap. So thank you for the opportunity once again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. We sincerely wish you could take something from our conversation today and be able to apply it to your life in a positive way. We value your feedback. This can help us improve our future episodes. So share your thoughts to serve you better. If you want us to focus on a topic which you think is of importance, let us know. We will share our expertise in future episodes. So, see you soon with a new topic and help you in your career journey.